Yes.
I have 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the regular Board of Education meeting for Zumwalt School District to order. Please stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Roll call, please. I'm here.
Mrs. Bowers? Here. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Helms is absent. Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. George?
Here.
Mr. Callahan?
Here.
The record will show that Mr. Helms is absent.
I have an agenda before you. I need a motion for the approval of the agenda. Powers?
Second.
Callahan? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Comments from the audience? Mr. Dienoff?
Thank you very much, members of the Board of Education. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, running for the Board of Education and the District Public Advocate. A couple issues that I'd like to go over the board with is your bonding signs that are right up here. They're really breaking the Constitution, in my opinion. They are baiting the voter. They are telling the voter items that are just not true. So these signs right here, that's exactly what I'm fighting for in the state legislature, is to get bills like that from prohibiting public governmental bodies from spending taxpayer dollar money on campaigns. And if you want to go to contractors, if you want to go to the community, if you want to go to residents, if you want to try to sell this in the right, proper way, then that's fine. Sell it in the proper way and get those proper donations. But don't use educational dollars that are supposed to educate our students to pay for these colorful signs and colorful brochures that is a bunch of Mickey Mouse type information. Now, when it comes to the pool, you know, we're looking at probably it's going to be at least 50% more in concrete. So that $100,000 you're paying the city of St. Peter's for all 4 schools per year, that's a bargain. You're still going to pay the transportation costs, but you're going to have to pay for lifeguards, you're going to have to pay for liability, you're going to have to pay for upkeep, maintenance, etc. And it's going to cost you over $1 million in operating costs, not to mention close to $35 to $50 million in building a pool that's going to come from this $125 million bond issue. That's very concerning. Now, we have the Florida resident here that, again, is breaking Missouri State Statute 163, the education law. We want to have people on the Board of Education that are going to be residents of our community, engaged in our community, on the ground and in the community each and every day. Not commuting from Florida, whether the district pays for his airline fare or not is really a question for the public to be asking. Now, the NEA has really had a Mickey Mouse endorsement of candidates. They want rubber stamp, puppet on a string candidates that they can go to and say, hey, we want X, Y, and Z, and because we endorsed you, we expect you to vote a certain way. Well, you know, they're putting up their signs all over the community, and they're violating the Constitution of the state of Missouri that says that no governmental lands nor monies may be used to support one candidate over another and to support one issue, ballot issue over another. And they're just sticking him anywhere and everywhere in the public right of way, using public lands of MoDOT, Missouri Department of Transportation and Highways, the city of O'Fallon, the city of St. Peter's, and other municipalities. And they just don't care about what laws they break or if they break the Constitution. They think that they get a free pass. And I think that's really unfortunate, and I think the community needs to wake up and smell the roses and know who they're voting for Board of Education members. Thank you very much.
Leah Burnett.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for being here this evening. The last time I was before you, I left feeling like most of your Black student population, unseen and unheard. I am a mother of two of your amazing Black students, and they have both felt the effects of racism in Fort Zumwalt School District, from fellow student body as well as teachers and other staff members. I made a post on Facebook in February that empowered other students from the present and past to begin telling their stories of how they've been treated in this school district. This has been the narrative for years. I am asking that the school board does something about this. I'm asking that you all make racism and how to keep your children of color safe as an agenda item for the next board meeting. I have more parents that have reached out to me that will be contacting you as well. Thank you for your attention to this matter and for adding this as an agenda item for the next meeting.
Brandy Peria.
So I want to start by stating racism is a belief people who belong to certain races are naturally inferior to others. And I feel like this is something that continues to be perpetuated in our Fort Zumwalt School District. We have teachers and principals not holding white students accountable for the use of the word and allowing them to continue their education as if sweeping it under the rug will make it all go away. We have white students calling our Black children niggers and even going as far as lying about their own personal heritage to use the word nigger. As I look at all of you on this board, I ask the question, how uncomfortable do you feel with the word nigger being used?
Ma'am, I'm
Sorry,
please.
how would you feel if your children were being treated differently or being treated differently by being exactly what God created them to be? I ask, rather than ignoring the problem, be a part of the solution in creating an environment where our children can be educated in an environment that includes diversity. As many times as I want, because my kids hear it as many times as they hear it in
And
school.
the principal of the schools are saying it as well, so,
Wow,
thank you.
saying that? Wow.
Yes, Dr. Keltner.
That's amazing that we let staff say that.
Oh,
Yeah.
we let a lot
It is. And they've known about it.
Excuse me, next person that would like to speak is Catherine Bird. And I will say that it is an offensive word.
Very
and it's
offensive.
as offensive to me as it is to you, so I request that it not be spoken.
Well, I
That's a great
requested that
request.
it not be said
And we'll
as
take that
well.
into consideration, just like you guys have to our demands. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Catherine.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Catherine Bird, and I have 3 children in the district. I am here tonight because I am concerned about what I saw in the last meeting. Ms. Leah Burnett has come before you telling you something horrible is happening to her son, and you have failed to act, seemingly brushing it off as if it's just something that happens. This is not an appropriate response to have when someone brings such an incident to your attention, and it is not much better than what happened when it was first reported. In order to initially report this incident, Ms. Burnett's son recalled the events, remembering the pain of what happened with every word that he wrote, gave it to his administrators, and they failed to even read it. I wonder, what consequences are there for them failing to read a complaint that was submitted? Without reading it, they have no idea what they could do to help the individuals involved and or to prevent something like this from happening again. How many students will need to be called racial slurs before you are ready to do something about it? How much pain will you need to see before you say is enough and do something? Like it or not, incidences like this are happening in our schools while you are in a leadership position. Such things will not go away because you refuse to acknowledge the racially motivated hate. Our children are witnessing it and also seeing that nothing to very little is being done about it. Such painful and traumatic experiences are not being handled appropriately, which is allowing an environment to make this type of behavior acceptable. I ask you, how are you going to help our children? How are you going to keep things like this from happening again? Before I go on, I would like to point out that we are a district of approximately 18,300 students, 1,371 teachers, and 1,271 staff members, so please do not send me to one person who already has a full workload. All racial issues for a group of over 20,000 people is a lot for one person to handle. He cannot be the end of your efforts to address racial issues. He cannot be at 25 different schools helping heal our children after something like this has happened, nor addressing it with the teachers and administrators. We need more in place to create a truly safe space for all students, teachers, and staff. Our children are experiencing racism and hate in our classrooms, on our playgrounds, and while traveling on our buses, but not much is being done to help them. Teachers and staff do not have the training nor support to protect and assist our students with processing what they are witnessing or experiencing. The policy we already have for disparaging or demeaning language is not complete and is not being followed. This is unacceptable and needs to be addressed. As Ms. Burnett has already said, this topic needs to be on next month's agenda. Thank you for your time.
Alexis Bingham.
Hi, everybody. My name's Alex Bingham. I'm with the Find the Light Foundation, and I'm talking about mental health today again. I want to start by thanking our two outgoing board members for all your service and commitment to this community, especially Mr. Emmons. You've given us a ton of support, and I have the utmost respect for you. I first spoke to the board more than a year and a half ago about the mental health crisis that was impacting our students, and at that meeting, we shared the results of a survey we had done that showed significant mental impacts among your students and recent graduates, and we shared specific concerns that our students have. Since then, the Surgeon General has released a public health advisory on the youth mental health crisis. We've seen teachers, parents, and students address this with the board. We've lost or almost lost multiple students since then. This is not going away, and the first time we approached the board with this problem, nearly everyone agreed that this was a problem. I've heard from the district about how much they support this. So I'm here today to ask you to reflect on one question. In the last year and a half, what's changed? We're hearing from kids and parents that bullying is as much a problem as it has always been, and no public review has been undertaken to address those policies. Zero tolerance punishes victims, and both victims and perpetrators are not getting the support that they need. Many of the problems we're hearing about have their roots in mental health. We need mental health to be taught with the same rigor as physical health, and it needs to be taught early and often. We need consistent discipline policies, and we need to take allegations of racism seriously. This is not a new problem. We know that diverse students are not always comfortable in our schools, and Black students have been called slurs at school and have had difficulties following up with school administration, and that is a culture that I think you'll all agree should be unacceptable in our district. The Surgeon General recommends systemic change, and school boards and administrators are in the position to do that. Quoting from the advisory, schools should recognize that mental health is an essential part of overall health. They should create positive, safe, and affirming school environments, which includes developing and enforcing anti-bullying policies, implementing bystander interventions for staff and students, being proactive about talking to students and families about mental health, and using inclusive language and behaviors. Schools should expand social and emotional learning programs and other evidence-based approaches that promote healthy development. ESSER funds can be used to hire and train additional staff, such as counselors, nurses, social workers, school psychologists. The American School Counselor Association recommends one counselor for every 250 students. That should be our goal. The mental health crisis is not just a Zumwalt problem, and I don't mean to insinuate that. It is a problem in general, but in order to address it, we need to acknowledge that it is a Zumwalt problem, and we need Zumwalt solutions to fit our specific student body. We need the district to acknowledge that many of its students are struggling and commit to addressing it. Studies consistently show that mental health is tied to academic success and to attendance rates. It's to the benefit of students, teachers, and our community to prioritize mental health. You have a community of parents, teachers, counselors, students, community groups, and experts who want to help. Use them, and please don't forget how valuable the input of your students can be. They live this every day. They can help. Thank you.
Heather Mudd.
I want to talk to you tonight about bullying. I know that all of you received an email from me this afternoon. It contained approximately 60 slides in a slideshow format so that you could see the magnitude of the problem that I'm here to talk to you about. Each one of those slides represented an individual incident of bullying, intimidation, or inappropriate sexual behavior that was reported to me by a parent in the district. What you didn't get is almost 150 other slides where it looked to me like we could possibly be talking about one of those same situations. So I assure you that the 60 stories you saw today are unique individual incidents, and there is no repetition in them. The reason I got involved in this problem in the first place is because I started hearing trickles of stories about things happening at West Middle School, where I have a 12-year-old son. And I asked him about it, and he told me, well, Mom, it's really bad, so I just try not to make eye contact with anyone, and when I'm on the bus, I look out the window because they don't pick on you if you don't make eye contact. If you're not ashamed that that's what a kid in our school district says, then you need to resign, because that's a terrible situation. If a kid feels like he can't fully participate in middle school because of how bad it is, then we need to do something. So I started asking parents, tell me what's going on, what are you hearing, what are you knowing? And what I was told was terrifying. Children who are reporting threats of violence to their parents, but they're too scared to tell school officials. Sexual assaults, because when somebody grabs a child's breasts and twists them, to me that's a sexual assault. All kinds of racial slurs, fat shaming, just about anything that you could think of that would fall under the umbrella category of bullying. So I put together those slides so that you could see the total impact of what I'm asking, but I also want you to remember that when a child is uncomfortable at school, they're not going to perform their best. They're not going to have the right attitude to learn. They're not going to be at their best on test days. They're not going to want to go to school. And what I was told by almost 20 sets of parents is, we pulled our kids from school. Our kids are homeschooled now. How many of those people that pulled their kids do you think are going to vote yes on your bond issue? Probably not very many. If you want to build consensus, put this community back together, and address this issue for the betterment of our students, I ask that you do 5 things. First, I ask you to put a motion on the April agenda to start a parent advisory committee on bullying. I'm happy to be a part of that if you'd like. I don't have any dog in this hunt other than I want my kid to feel more comfortable in his school. Second, I ask that you, instead of the bully boxes that are in the school, that you instead have an electronic way of submitting bullying incidents that goes straight to one person at central office, and that it not be Juan Wilson, because that's too much on top of what he already has. I'm asking you to collect data and then report that data to yourselves and to us as a community. Sending out surveys like you did to the elementary school parents that I don't believe you actually received the results of, and we certainly didn't, is not going to cut it. Please take action. Please put it on the April agenda to appoint a parent advisory committee. Thank you.
Heather Zakalski.
Good evening, Dr. DeBray, members of the board. Tonight I'd like to speak to you about healing the divide in our district. Somewhere along the way, we became a community divided. Somewhere along the way, we lost empathy and understanding for others. We became vindictive in trying to get our point across. We started spending so much time and energy trying to villainize anyone who didn't agree with our viewpoint that we became unwilling to even entertain a viewpoint different than ours. The very concept of compromise became foreign to us. It was my way or the highway. We started labeling one another according to political affiliation. If you believed in masking to protect others, you were labeled a liberal. If you fought the mask mandates, you were labeled right-winged. We've even managed to turn this Board of Education election into a political tit-for-tat. We have candidates running purely for their own political gain and ambition, a political pit stop, if you will, a necessary step on the way to the next higher level office. Our candidates are being asked if they are Republican or Democrat. If they answer wrong, the person doesn't want to hear any more from them. They don't care what their priorities are, how they will address the important issues the district faces, or how they will make things better for our students and staff. As long as you line up politically with them, you've got their vote. It never should have been this way. Our kids are not political pawns. They deserve people sitting on this Board of Education that are there only because they care about the students and staff and want to make things better for them. It is my sincere hope that we can put politics aside and elect 2 Board of Education members on April 5th that will truly listen to understand, represent every single student in this district, and value their worth. Value the thoughts and opinions of our students and seek their input. Work to address the COVID learning loss, especially among our population that falls under the IDEA umbrella. Allow our teachers to use the skill sets they have to teach, work to retain our amazing teachers, and work towards mastering the art of fair compromise. Then we can finally begin to address all of the issues that need to be addressed, especially those that have the propensity to further divide us because we aren't willing to hear each other's perspective. There was always some level of division in our district, but over the last few years, what was once a crack has become a wide cavern. We are so divided that we can't even find common ground to address the real issues this district faces. We spend our energy fighting about COVID mitigation measures, CRT, which isn't even taught in our K-12 public schools, banning books because we're afraid if we step into someone else's shoes, we may actually feel some empathy and understanding towards them, and that would challenge everything we've been conditioned to believe. We need to spend less time fighting and criticizing each other and more time trying to find common ground so we can begin to heal and move this district forward. Why are we so threatened by someone who doesn't look like us, believe the same as us, or think the same as we do? How boring would it be if we all thought exactly the same? Through dialogue and attempting to understand what someone else has been through and why they feel the way they do, we can begin to find solutions. We cannot continue to collectively stick our heads in the sand and avoid the uncomfortable issues that are festering in this district. With progress comes discomfort, but with the discomfort on the journey to progress will come understanding, empathy, and unity. Don't we all want to get to this place? I challenge every one of you to truly evaluate what it is that you are so afraid of when it comes to more controversial issues, and ask yourself, is it worth holding on to your personal biases, and what would it look like if you made an effort to let go of those biases and attempted to truly understand those who are different from you? Our kids deserve parents who can come together to find real solutions to the issues they face. Kids model what they see from their parents. If we are being honest, is what we are modeling currently what we want our kids to see, or do we want them to see tolerance and acceptance of others and the ability to work together to address hard issues? I know my answer. What's yours?
All right, moving on from comments from the audience now, presentations. Dr. Bray, you have 2.
We have 2 presentations for you. I'd like to have Laura come down. The last board meeting, we gave you a presentation on what was going on with our campaign for Prop 4. Tonight, we just wanted to update you. It won't take very long. I can tell you that both of our chambers of commerce, the Greater St. Charles Chamber and the O'Fallon Chamber, have endorsed our proposition. FZEA has endorsed our proposition as well. I've spoken to a number of groups and gotten good reactions. I just talked to the Luncheon Legislators group of the O'Fallon Chamber last Friday, and I've been getting good questions and good feedback on the proposition. So I wanted Laura just to take you from where we were last time and let you know what we've done lately on this campaign. I think she's done a great job with it, and why don't you go ahead and tell them, Laura.
So we're headed into the home stretch. We're about 2 weeks away from Election Day. And so with that, I have a bunch of regular communications that we send out to our community so we can keep them up on our initiatives and our achievements. This time, those will feature information about Prop 4 for them to have at their disposal. So in front of you, I have 2 publications that go to press tomorrow, so you won't see them before the election. I wanted you to have a copy. Our regular local values insert goes to 68,000 homes in the county, or in our district. And then also we now partner with a chamber partner, Community News, twice a year. So that will appear not only in their newspaper that circulates about 25,000 in the county, but also goes out on their website and their e-blast so that folks who subscribe to those services can get to it. We also did an op-ed in Community News that just was Dr. Dubray sharing the information about the 4 pillars of Prop 4 and what that would mean with passage and how passage is achieved with 57% of the vote. We have saturated as much as we can with our regular partnership with the chamber billboards. So we have 4 billboards around the county that we regularly use to advertise that we're hiring or that kindergarten is now enrolling. We use those to reach out to our community, again, to keep them in tune with our achievements and our initiatives. So the billboards are up for Prop 4, and the signs are out to inform folks that there is an election on April 5th. and our social media campaign is underway. We've had some really good traffic, and the questions have come in. We have not gotten a lot of questions through the button on our websites. The questions that have come to us, we do appreciate from folks who are seeing things and questioning the source of the information. So we've had several folks reach out to Dr. Dubray and myself regarding things that they are seeing on social media, and then reaching out to us and asking us, is this actually right? And I just wanted to take one quick moment to let you know that, and to thank those folks who are doing that for us, because that helps us fight misinformation online. So that's where we are right now, home stretch to April 5th.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay, very good. The next presentation is Jeremy Moore is going to talk to you a little bit about our Positive Peer Influence program. It's been around the district for many, many years. Jeremy is the latest administrator that oversees all of our at-risk programming, and including Positive Peer Influence. It is our flagship leadership program. So I wanted him to give you a little bit of an update and tell you where we are. COVID has certainly been a wet blanket, but we're getting ready to come back very strong. Jeremy?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bray, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight a little bit about the Positive Peer Influence Program, kind of what that looks like in its current status within our schools. As Dr. Bray had mentioned, that's a program that began in 1989, the 1989-90 school year. So we are, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? All right. So we're 30 plus years of having PPI in the schools, which is pretty exciting. Looks a little bit different than it did back in 1989. It kind of began more, like Dr. Ray said, as a belief system really within the schools of district and building administration, recognizing just how peers themselves could really enact change within the buildings, but that the adults need to be intentional about how they taught that. So what it really has kind of transformed into now within our buildings, and for those that are not familiar with our student mentor program, PPI Connections, that's at all of our middle schools and high schools. And while certainly it did look a little bit different on how they implemented that over the last couple of years, the mentors have really been able to get back into the classrooms and work a little bit more one-on-one. What that is we have identified the student mentors are juniors and seniors at the high school level, and then 8th graders at the middle school level. They come to a summer training that administrators lead and counselors and teachers that lead, usually about mid to late or mid-August, I guess now when we start. And then throughout the course of the school year, there is actually a program manual. It's all electronic now, but the kids are then taught different themes that they will bring back into the classrooms, the 9th grade classrooms and the 6th grade classrooms. So those kids that are starting out either their high school career or their middle school career, and the themes that the mentors will talk about, getting involved in their school. What does that mean to be a part of that culture? Online presence, be a positive online presence. What does that look like? What do they do when they see things such as bullying, cyberbullying, harassing behavior? What are the mechanisms that they can use to report those things and possibly respond? So they do role modeling, they do smaller group activities, and these activities kind of go throughout the school year. So like I said, they had to do some of that virtually over the last year and a half or so, kind of a hybrid this year, but they've really been able to get back into the classrooms here, especially in the spring, and get a little bit more face-to-face with them. So our mentors really act also as our student ambassadors. They're kind of the face of the school. So new students that come into the school districts, those little kids that they meet, they are involved in our transition activities, our orientation nights, different things like that. So anywhere from 50 to 60 per building. So a lot of kids are able to participate in that program, and that's kind of our Students Leading Students student mentor program. Another thing that really more of a recognition that PPI is part of PPI, and that's every spring. We just wrapped up, I think, our final one at the high school where they have Essence of PPI. I don't know if any of you have been able to attend one of those. this is where staff members identify kids that not necessarily mentors, but they are kids, freshmen through seniors, that kind of embody these beliefs, and they just go about their everyday school life. And whether they know they're doing it or not, they're promoting these ideals of, positive role modeling, good character, empathy skills, resiliency skills, things like that. So that one staff member a staff member in every building, that gets to select a kid, and then in the spring they have an award ceremony. They're selected, they get a medal. Oftentimes then the reveal happens that night, so the kids really do not know the kind of the who and the why for why they received it, and then they're encouraged to wear those medals at their commencement ceremony in May. So that's another neat activity that they did not get to do last year, but they got to do that this past spring, and another really kind of positive thing that we kind of are bringing back as we get to open things back up. And then lastly, I kind of watched prior to the board meeting, and not to be offensive, I don't mean it that way, but the board members acted much like our elementary school kids do when they get the trading cards at lunch, and you guys we're passing them around and noting who's doing this and what, and so that's our League of Leaders program, and that was started in 2015. For those of you on the board, Mr. Berry, I think, came and did a board presentation in 2019 on that. Really neat program that has now evolved into all of our high schools. And these are identified seniors that represent one of the 7 habits of Franklin McCovey's The Leader in Me. And so I gave examples of some kids from West High and their cards last year, and so they're identified with that habit. And then what happens throughout the course of the school year, those kids go into the elementary schools, and the kids begin to collect the cards, and really it's when I have observed and what it is all about is it's our student leaders at the high schools that are getting down to the elementary school, and they're just making positive connections with kids. Some things just organically that have happened that have just been really cool, just byproducts of just older kids, going down and being mentors or role models, and just talking with the younger kids about not only what they do in school, but then what they can do in their elementary schools. So really neat program that, again, kind of had to look a little different last year, but the kids are back in the buildings and they've got their cards, and they'll do a celebratory session here usually in May. They kind of come back and all the kids are there and get to kind of participate with those older kids. So another neat program. I anticipate as we see Leader in Me get into our elementary schools and then high schools and middle schools, I think that it's kind of the next evolution of what PPI and League of Leaders, Leader in Me will look like. So pretty neat stuff going on in the schools, and we're absolutely, everyone is glad to kind of get back to that. So I can take any questions or anything you guys have for me. Yeah.
So I know that I didn't have the opportunity to go through PPI when I was a student here, unlike a couple of our board members. But I do remember seeing some of the benefits from it, and it seemed like there was a lot more, and I know, and I'm not discounting the fact that COVID did kind of squelch a lot of communications over the last year or 2 years. But and we're hearing what we're being told here as far as bullying and the other issues that comes of concern. PPI raises up leaders and builds character. Is this something that can be used or has been used in terms of, dealing with some of these kids that are maybe lack the character they need and why they're bullying? And I know there's various different reasons.
Yeah,
social, economic, and just some are just jerks and they're not nice. How do we fix that? And can PPI kind of play a part in that?
Yeah, I think it absolutely can play a part. I think to be presumptuous that it could kind of quote unquote fix the behavior and be the one kind of thing for that.
I'm not expecting it to fix,
Yeah,
but I'm maybe pulling a few apples off the tree.
Absolutely.
This is one of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that probably, like I talked about, an evolution of things that will be to come. I think that we can't ignore that kids these days are, there's all kinds of avenues to which they are accessing information, accessing one another, and that's just a whole nother field that we have to, as educators within the schools, have to recognize and problem solve with regards to where are we going to go with that. So yeah, I think it absolutely can be a tool within that for sure.
want to add something to that too. What I really am hopeful for with Leader in Me, it's very empowering to the students, and I've seen it in the elementary level of that they come up with solutions when they see things or they deal with it peer to peer. And my hope is that as we continue it through the district, and I don't think it's a begin it all and fix all of anything, but I hope that it encourages more of that and that empowerment in students.
Yeah.
So that they can do that. I know when I was in high school, we had like peer mediation that we could, you know, the students talked and worked together. And it was really powerful because you understood each other a lot deeper. And I hope that by doing this, that we give the students more of a voice so that they can problem solve, because a lot of them have really good solutions, and I think that we'll continue to grow when we listen and do that more.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. One of the things that you mentioned being like a Pheasant Point, that was a school, and I had that in my notes, I didn't mention, that was a school that was one of the first ones that had the League of Leaders in it. And now what the West High sponsors are saying are those kids that were 4th and 5th graders at Pheasant Point are now at West High and they're getting involved in the mentor program and kind of coming full circle for the school that kind of first started it. The other school is 2017, so they haven't quite got those kids up to that age yet. But yeah, I absolutely agree.
Jimmy, I was on the team, my wife and I both, in '99 that went to Indiana for the National PPI Conference that brought back peer mediation. In fact, was a member of the very first peer mediation that we did at South High. And as a result of that, we've had a lot of conversation about bullying and aggression and racism, and that was one of the major reasons why I got on this board or went after it. And quite frankly, I think what we have is a major culture issue. It's across the board. And I do believe that PPI, done right, done effectively, is a ticket to resolving that culture, building a new culture within our district. And the more we can look to having students learn how to support each other, how to support themselves, and then be celebrated for doing that. You know, we had a mother speak last month that talked about her son getting ISS for defending another kid. I don't know the background to the story or anything like that. But I think we need to take a new look at the children who step up to defend others and how we look at taking opportunities to celebrate those kids, to treat them like heroes. Because frankly, I do believe that a kid who stands up for another kid and even at that point sacrifices the potential of physical impacts to themselves is a hero. And it's something that we need to celebrate here. So PPI can do that, peer mediation can do that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, thanks for the opportunity,
Thanks,
guys.
All right. Next item is the consent agenda. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mike, I'd like to request we pull the coronavirus update out. Updates from A.G. Schmidt.
And move that to new business. All right. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda with the item B pulled to new business.
I move for approval of the consent agenda with the coronavirus update being moved to.
So you gotta get a second, so.
John?
I'll second it then.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Financial report, Mr. Orr?
Dr. Bray, members of the board, I direct your attention to the monthly financial reports, tie together the financial statement, investment schedule, revenue, expenditure reports. Cash and fund balances for the end of February totaled $112,445,329 for the district at the end of February. As shown on the investment schedule, $110,214,130 was invested at the month end. Revenues for the month of February totaled $17,579,712 as shown on the revenue report. Local revenues were up about $5 million year to date. $1.8 million of that was in local property taxes, which was as expected. We are up about $2.3 million in Prop C, which is sales tax related, which is a little unexpected. I have gotten word that those are expected to be elevated, but that right now the legislature will have to appropriate additional funding for us to even consider getting more than what we're currently budgeted for. So we're hopeful that, I think that supplemental appropriation is going to be submitted to them, and I'm hopeful that they will approve it, so that could be some additional dollars for the district. So, as far as that is concerned, they did finally appropriate ESSER 3 money, so we should be able to look forward to accessing those funds here pretty soon. I think they may have just finally approved our budget and our plan for that, so hopefully we'll be able to start requesting funds, because we have spent some of those on some activities already. Monthly expenses for February total $32,050,549.31. For the month of February, this is really typical spending pattern for the month of February. And I know it may seem kind of elevated. Our average usually for operating expenses runs 18 to 20 million. But in February is when we pay our principal and interest payment, and so that's why our expenses are a little elevated for the month. So, aside from that, we are starting to feel some of the pressure from inflation, for sure. I'm sure everybody's seeing the price of gas going up and other things. We're seeing that in food, electricity, all the utilities, just kind of those, we're paying more for items. So we are starting to see those pressures. Does anybody have any questions about anything in the financial reports or?
Any questions for Mr. Roy?
If not,
If there are none, we'll take a motion to approve the financial report as presented. Powers, second. George, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Old business, coronavirus update. Dr. Gray.
Coronavirus report that appears in your agenda shows that the numbers have dwindled, very much so. This morning we had one staff member out of all of our staff members and 7 students that were listed as coronavirus students. So that's going very well. It looks like St. Charles County is about 2.8, something like that, in a positivity rating. Our schools are just infinitesimal in terms of coronavirus being in the schools. There are, I believe, only 4 schools that have students of those 7. So everybody else has no coronavirus students, and the percentages are very, very low on that. So you know that the Attorney General has dropped Fort Zumwalt out of his lawsuits. I think after we were taken out, there was another 30 or so that were dropped out. So we are one of many. I think he's concentrating on seven school districts at this point. But at this point, there was virtually no money that was spent on our defense, and you're out of it. So that's kind of where we're at, guys.
Questions or comments?
So for the last 2 months, I've pushed that we should drop our mitigations as a result of the lawsuit and not willing to spend money against it. The majority of this board arguably handled it in the right way. Stared them down, called them bluff, obtained control, and it went away. It was what I think we all thought it was, which was very politically leaning. That said, we're now at a point where the lawsuit's been taken away. It's been removed. There's no threat of not being able to do what this board feels it needs to do in the future. We still have this cloud hanging over us. We still have mitigation thresholds in place. We still have mitigation mandates in place that may or may not be what this board wants to do if something happens in the future. Yet they're there. We have a COVID dashboard. It continues to loom. We have contact tracing for that dashboard that continues to be a part of the job description of our people. I think it's time that we move on from that. This is an opportunity for this board to take a victory, yet another victory, frankly, and make another statement that they're moving forward. Yes. And I'll say more of this tonight, later tonight. I joined for 2 major reasons. I joined because I wanted to go after bullying in our classrooms, and I wanted to improve our teacher salaries. I have fundamentally failed in both of those areas. Largely, our district and every district in the state has done nothing but argue over the COVID cloud looming over their head. to die with my tenure here and move forward, focused on the future. So with that, I would like to make a motion that we remove these mitigations, we remove this dashboard, we make a fundamental statement that we are moving forward with the very, very many things that are priorities for us that we need to address. And I know that the new board, and some of those people may be in this room, will do an amazing job of focusing on that future.
And that's a motion.
Very long-winded one.
I will second it, Thomas' proposal that we drop the, you have
Mitigations and dashboard.
the mitigations and the website count.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Will there still be contact of parents if they're, like how it is with strep or in the classroom?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's still in the policy, right?
I just wanted that clarified, that would be.
It would still fall under our communicable disease policy at that point, right?
Roll call?
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yeah.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Swearengin? 6 yeses.
Motion passes. Very good. Moving on to new business then. We've got certified support staff projections. Dr. DeBrey.
Yes, Henry has prepared his projections of certified and support staff for the coming school year, and he's prepared to address it. You've got a memo, but he's going to review that for you this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Bray. Good evening, members of the board. You do have a couple of memos from me in your packet regarding our certified and support staff projections. As we near this time of year annually, we begin more formal planning for next year, and as such, we bring recommendations to the Board of Education for approval to help move forward with that planning. I do have Ms. Erin Williams is with us in the audience, and Erin is our Director of Support Personnel and works real closely with me in my office and does a great job. We're grateful to have her here, and she can speak to any questions that may come up as well on the support staff side. But two sets of recommendations, one on the support staff side and one on the certified side. I'll start with the support staff side and be happy to answer any questions that you may have. On the support staff side, the net is we are requesting an additional 6.5 positions. And I do want to point out that of the additional 6.5 positions, there are some offsets there that can be had where we are requesting 5 additional paraprofessionals at the early childhood special education, at the early childhood center, I should say, but through early childhood special education services, those 5 positions are 100% reimbursable to us. We are also requesting to increase a half-time occupational therapist at the early childhood center. Again, that increase would be 100% reimbursable through state and federal funds. And then another new position that we are requesting is a coordinator of social emotional support services. And we believe that this position can be at least partially offset by those ESSER funds. So although we are requesting an additional 6.5 positions on the support staff side, there are some significant offsets there that will help mitigate any additional expenses to the budget. On the certified side, you see a memo as well that shows a request of no net change on our non-reimbursable positions, certified teaching positions. We're actually projecting a decrease of 3 positions, but again, on the reimbursable side at the early childhood center, we are requesting 3 additional positions. Those again, like our paraprofessional positions, would be reimbursed. However, when we look at the total, we would project no net change in certified teaching positions, given some fluctuation from building to building, grade level to grade level. all in all, we are projecting our K-5 class sizes to be just over 20, which is a good number that we are pleased that we're able to maintain those low class sizes throughout all this. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Mrs. Williams, happy to answer any questions as well if the board may have those.
Any questions? Mr. Callahan, none? Tom?
Sure. Can one of you talk a little bit more about the vision of this new position, the coordinator of social and emotional support services?
Yeah, so, you know, we've obviously noted, and Jeremy can chime in too, because Mr. Moore's position will help oversee this position as well. But we have noticed, as have many others, the increase in the needs that our kids have related to the social emotional domain. With that, we need a commensurate increase in staff to help support that. And we have attempted to add staff along the way, but what we don't have is a central coordinator of those efforts. And so the vision of this position, to speak to your question, Mr. Emmons, is to be that person, to be that go-to for our adults to help coordinate the supports that we are providing related to student social emotional needs, provide training, provide professional development, and just coordination of overall services, to also be working in consultation with buildings. But Jeremy, I don't know if you want to add anything or if it's summation.
Yeah, I mean, we've grown in the number of social workers and LPC, licensed professional counselors that we've had within the buildings. That number is increasing close to 20, I believe. So, and you know, like Dr. St. Pierre said, it is definitely a need within our buildings, within the district, to probably dive a little deeper into even support we can pull from ancillary services. Right now, that kind of falls within my office to oversee the memos of understanding that we have with, you know, groups outside such as CHADS, CUDO, Compass Health. So this would be an individual that would oversee the supports that they have to offer within our schools as well. So,
do you envision this person being able to provide any updates to this board on progress being made on the social emotional side? And just, when we add new roles like this, I think it'd be really nice for the board to understand kind of what are we currently looking at, what's being done through this person to impact it, and then how has that impact happened, right? How have we made advancements on it? Is that something we can plan to do? I mean,
see why not?
Yes, I guess, but on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I think at least, you know, like quarterly, something would be nice to see when it comes that we can look at and see even the plans, projections, those sorts of things, so we can see what's going on.
Yeah, and if the board approves the overall recommendation, and with it, this additional position, we would post, and I think our plan would be to have this person in place by July 1.
Any other questions?
I got a question on the certified staff side too. Looking at the numbers, the average per building, how do we compare right now with these numbers to, let's just say, Winslow and Francis Howell, and not specifically, but in general?
I would have to say, my hunch is that we're a little better off than those districts are as far as the average overall class size. And I don't have 100% irrefutable hard data to support that, but just that's conversations that I've had with my colleagues in other districts, that our numbers are pretty good.
I don't recall offhand, but they feel lower than what they were last year. It feels like we continue to.
We were maintaining really steady. That 20 is really where we are. We hover at that 20 at K-5 and have for 3 years, or probably more so than that.
That has to be a welcome relief, because I remember when we were looking at 25 to 27 in this K-5.
Yeah.
And we're growing so fast.
Yeah. And you'll see some anomalies within that, but the average across the district is, we're very happy with that number.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to take these separate. So I need a motion from the board to accept the recommendation for the support staff projections of 6.5 positions. Powers, second. Callahan, all in favor say aye. Aye. Like sign. Okay, and then with the certified staff, we're looking at no net change for the 22-23 school year. So I'll need a motion to approve the certified staff projections as well. Powers, second. Moore, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next item. Thank you.
Next item is we want to present to you the professional agreement that we were able to conclude with our FCEA group. Both the salary schedule for the certified group and the calendar for 23-24. We're out there a little bit, but that's the way, staff likes to know about those things in advance. So we had a really good negotiation session. Both subcommittees did good work, and we were able to agree by the March 11th, which was our target date, and we concluded with our win-win this year. I was appreciative of everybody's efforts to get to this point. So with that said, Henry is going to hit on the highlight of the salary schedule, and then we'll have Paul present the calendar.
Yeah, thank you again, Dr. Gray and members of the board. Again, you have another memo in your packet from me that outlines the highlights and the changes regarding the proposed teacher salary schedule for next year, 2022-2023. If you look on the second page of that memo, that shows our overall salary plan, our salary structure for teachers. And the page behind that are the longevity steps, those teachers who are no longer on the schedule. And then if you look at the page behind that, page number 4, you'll see the changes from the current salary schedule to next year's proposed salary schedule. So with that, returning teachers would get movement plus that increase from cell to cell. So they'd go down from one step to the next. And then again, you see that increase that is reflected on that page 4. As Dr. Bray said, we had a successful negotiations process with the Teachers Association. One piece of this was the salary schedule. Dr. Bray and Mr. Orse were certainly involved, and we had Board of Education representation throughout the process as well. The FCEA did ratify the salary schedule at 93.5% as well.
We did work on sweetening up the steps along the way, steps 1 through 16, really trying to begin the process of making a difference in getting our salary schedule more where we would reward all the staff members rather than the lower select few. And turned out to be a 2.75% increase, which we would love to have more that we can do for our teachers, but we did everything I believe we did everything we could and keep the district in a good position budget-wise. Jamie, did you want to say anything at all?
I just thought we had a nice negotiations, good talks with the teams, everybody had input.
Yep, very good.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. St. Pierre or Dr. DeBray?
I got a few. Okay. Henry, which is the step that would still have the large bubble coming? Remind me again, where's that at now?
That's 17.
Yeah, that's
No, the large number bubble of teachers, not.
Oh.
It's like 7 step or 8. I can tell you exactly in just a second.
It's like step 10, I think, something like that.
So what you're looking at, when we go through our negotiations, and I've served on for 2 years, or did serve on 2 years, we spend a good deal of time focusing in on the salary itself. I'm gonna try to walk a little bit of a tightrope here. We, as a district, I believe, focus as much as we can into our teachers. But we have some glaring deficiencies between our salary schedule and salary schedules next door to us. There's intrinsic benefits that I believe our teachers get that aren't shared across those districts, and there's got to be a trade-off in value there. I have a concern that we are prioritizing some of those benefits over the increase on salaries. And my question, I guess, is, has that conversation come up? Have we talked about all of the different benefits associated with being a certified staff member here, and then how that impacts a a salary schedule and our options to increase a salary in years coming? Or are we focused primarily on the salary piece? Because in the ones I've been in, it's primarily salary.
Yeah, I think it's still primarily salary. We talked a little bit about class size and the medical benefits and things like that. Number of days on the contract, but that wasn't the focus of the negotiation. It was, how much money could we free up to be used at improving the salary schedule and giving everyone a raise. So we did not focus on what you're discussing.
So the bubble you were asking about is currently on step 8, and it will be on step 9 next year.
And
It's 197 staff members.
we've got a major concern coming. I don't want to derail the question I just asked. We've got a major issue coming once that step hits 17, right? And you have a massive increase across a very large number of people that we will need to address. But how transparent, how engaged do we feel our whole certified staff base is on the various things that go into establishing this salary schedule and the benefits that, let's just say, pull from it? How much insight do we feel they have to that?
Well, I mean, the teachers survey their membership before we ever sit down, and that starts before the win-win night on that Friday when we have our first meeting and pose questions and things like that. So they have some feeling from teaching staff members through a survey that they do.
What's our current percentage of that membership?
I think we're 60. Does that sound right?
Somewhere in there,
60?
I believe, yeah.
What was the total vote count? Do we know?
I don't know that. I just know the percentage.
Do you know, Jamie?
Well, we don't, that's not our practice to share that information.
Okay.
We just share the percentages.
And we just share the, I don't mean that, can I ask you a question directly? Okay. We just share the percentages of yes, no to certified staff in the union, correct?
Or those that have voted.
I guess I'm not sure what the question is.
I have not seen the vote percentages of non-union members.
Oh, yeah, we don't share those percentages either. There were members and non-members who did vote.
We do tell the non-members their votes don't, they're advisory, but they don't.
They're advisory,
count.
correct.
So, here's my concern. My concern is that we don't have a situation, we don't have a process right now where we as a board have good visibility into what our full staff looks like. At least 40% of that staff, probably more based on who actually comes back to vote. It's a concern for me on our ability to make sure that we're setting the right priority, or we're helping them meet the right priorities that they have to continue increasing the morale of our staff. I constantly get calls and emails and Facebook messages and text messages and everything else about how disappointed our staff is in our salary schedule. I do believe that there's a lot of benefit that they get that's not associated with that salary schedule. Though I have a lot of concerns that they see that and that we're prioritizing it in the right way. I'm in line with the fact that the FCEA is our sole negotiator. Teachers have supported that, they voted for it. In fact, when it came up that get removed, I think it was widely voted down. But I don't believe that transitions from being the sole negotiator to the sole ratifier, and certainly not the sole survey or priority setter. We're 2.75%, we're still 6 figures from a lifetime earnings perspective, separating our staff and our neighbors in Winsfield and Francis Allen. It's a massive gap. Frankly, for my part, I think this board would like to know where all of our staff stands on the salary schedule. And so I would make a motion that we pause, hold, put it on the table, we get that data, and we come back and approve this in the April board meeting. So I think it's important to know.
Thomas, your point is that there is a contingent of 40% of our certified staff that are not members of the Fort Zumwalt Education Association, and therefore are out of the process?
My concern is that they're not included in the setting of priorities, the negotiations, or the ratification from an actual approval perspective. There's advisory, so I'm not debating that, right? But there's also been a lot of communication to me that they know their voice doesn't matter in it, and they've become disconnected from that process. It's a problem, it's a concern.
And when I said 60%, I think that's around there, but I don't know for dead certain what it is. It used to be higher, but, so it's somewhere in that area.
If we hold this item for another month, that will not impact its application?
Well, we'd like to have the information as soon as we can so that personnel can start getting contracts put together. So.
In 2019, we didn't pass the salary schedule until, I think, the first part of May. Because it got delayed on the April board meeting.
Right. We issued letters of employment which we have to do by May 15th by law, and then came back at a later, we said in the letter of employment that salaries would be coming at a later date. So that's the way we did that. But that's not the way we want to do it. If we can do it this way, when we had a successful negotiation, if we can get that done now, personnel can move ahead with their contracts. So that's what we'd prefer to do.
So for clarification, you're asking that the board pause for what purpose? Not to renegotiate, but
No,
to
absolutely not. To poll the full staff, and then get a passing vote that we approve. Because here's the point, guys. We have to make sure that our full staff has the opportunity to feel as though their voice is heard. Right? It's one thing to say that we have an organization that's responsible for the negotiation. It's a different statement to say that that same group controls and frankly is the only voice, the only votable voice in the setting of priorities for the negotiation itself, and then the ratification of that negotiation. This should be a win-win for our entire certified staff.
Well,
and if it is, this is a really easy process.
Yeah, that's never been the way it's been handled. I mean, they're the recognized bargaining agent for our teachers and several other groups. And
are there any policies that would keep it from being handled this way in the future?
No, other than the fact that they were the group approved by the Federal Board of Mediation.
To negotiate.
To represent our teachers.
And they negotiate and approve. That is within their scope of jurisdiction.
So Jamie, did all the teachers, all the staff have access to the numbers and were able to?
Yes, they are, and I will also say all certified staff were surveyed. We did not just survey FZEA members. And I can tell you on that, we had over 1,000 teachers respond to the survey.
Close to half, about half, a little over half.
Well, we've got about 1,500 certified staff.
We're a little higher than that.
1730, 1750.
And it's 1570 or 1517, something like that.
And you can't share with us how many of those voted?
Well, that's not our practice. I would have to talk with my leadership team before I could do something like that. That's just not how it's ever been done.
How come, do you know why that is?
Well, I think because our duty is just to let the board know, was this something that was approved or not approved by the teachers. And all non-members had the opportunity to come vote. We did not exclude anyone from the vote.
We just didn't count it. And we tell them going into it that their vote isn't going to count. It's a good way of disenfranchising a vote.
So if you were to do the math on what you have, would it make a change?
No, it would not make a change.
We don't know that though. I mean,
right.
Well, you don't know who voted. I guess if they were told it's not going to vote or not going to matter, then why go to the polls anyway? So, all right. Do you have another question?
Yeah, I was just going to make one more comment. I think Thomas has pointed out that there is a sizable morale problem that is causing some of our certified teachers to be, I think the word you use, disconnected. They are in some discomfort with the proposed or the approved pay coming. And there are other issues that are driving this decline in morale, and that's my term. There's a lot of fringe benefits out there that they get that are not available at other school districts, right?
So I would, and should be free to weigh in on this, but I would imagine that most people would agree that there is a morale issue and concern across teachers across this country based on their salaries, right? And the alignment of those salaries to the hard work that gets done. The question becomes then, are we not better off for understanding the wants, desires, and positioning of all of our staff? If we can truly say there is a major issue with teacher salaries nationally, we have an opportunity to say, at least within the walls of our own district, we're gonna listen to everybody. We're gonna bring more voices into that. We're gonna understand fully the priorities of everybody and how they feel about what I believe is probably going to be an improved and well thought out negotiation. This isn't about stopping the agreement that was put together. It's about ensuring that everybody has a voice in it and nobody is left disenfranchised in a time when we should not be disenfranchising the voices of teachers who deserve our support.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'll just say, I do agree with what Mr. Rimmons has said. I brought that up in the past, that as a, in a private sector, you have an employer and its employees, and oftentimes there might be surveys, or you're trying to get the pulse for a large corporation of how people feel and things like that. There should be nothing that should impede us as a district from getting that feedback and that pulse from the people who we employ every day. There shouldn't just be one avenue. We should be able to, at any given time on our own, also send out a survey. And whether that's for salary or whatever else might come up as far as getting that pulse, we should have that ability and we should have that avenue within our structure to go ahead and do that on our own. I do absolutely agree with that we need to.
Okay, so go ahead.
If I take a position to support Thomas in his proposal, will that double the workload for the administrative staff?
I would not say it's gonna double the workload.
If we have a vote next month, yea or nay on this?
And I'm not sure that we need to delay it. I do believe we need to have an understanding that as every employee should, as an employer, the school district, every employee, we have a right to understand where they stand at. And if that's by survey or conversation or whoever it might be, we should be able to collectively be able to get information that could be anonymous, whatever it may be, but we need to have an understanding as a group, as a whole, what everyone's feeling on any given issue, whether that's salary or training in a certain area that they feel like they need to be focused on. We've talked a lot about racial issues and other issues here tonight about surveying them. We should have an avenue as a school district to be able to go and talk to the people that work for us and try to understand them on how we can help make situations better.
Craig, I would say you can delay this by 25 days or delay getting that information by 2 years.
I understand.
Okay, we have a motion.
Mr. Swearingen, can I just check the motion? real
Yes,
quick?
absolutely.
I have a motion was made by Mr. Emmons to table the vote on the salary schedule, so a poll can be conducted of the full certified staff regarding their position on our salary schedule.
That's.
Second more.
Okay, second. It sounds like the motion, more seconded. Roll call?
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. George?
No.
Mr. Callahan?
No.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Swearingen?
Yes.
That is 4 yeses and 2 nos.
Okay. So we will then, we need to itemize or identify exactly what needs to go to the staff so we get a good feel for where we're at. I don't think that that motion changes anything. We just want to make sure that everyone has an understanding where we are. All right.
Okay, next item is 23-24 school calendar. Paul chaired that committee.
Thank you, Dr.
Kevin
Clark.
Henry.
Members of the board. Looking back a little bit to last year, the calendar committee looked at our total input, about what our staff prioritized and other considerations. Very good calendar group overall. I appreciate the effort of the committee itself. You have the notes and the calendar description that breaks it down. One of the things that we paid close attention to and considered in rolling forward on this one, some of the issues that we debated last year. So the version that you see here shows some of the work of that carried forward. The things that I would point out, certain aspects of it, start date are set by state law, so we stayed as close to that as we could. We also kept some kind of rollovers that have been there, the training day at the start of the year that allows staff to knock out required legal trainings. So really when you get down to the heart of it, the things that we then brought forward, heard the feedback last year, so we have balanced semesters. Both options that were voted on had fully balanced. This is like an 86-87 split at the high school level. A little bit of feedback about the benefits versus trade-off with half-day finals and full-day finals. So we are reverting back to half-day finals in the version that you have here. And then we were also able to incorporate a fall break, which is something that coincides nicely with our parent-teacher conferences. For parents in the district, it streamlines the days, so it's a little less jerky in and out of school. I don't know if that's technically a word, but we'll go with jerky. And then outside of that, the only 2 differences on the calendars that were really at the root of it is whether we were out before Memorial Day or after. And in the version that was selected on a close vote, it was the version that is after Memorial Day, which is what allows you the flexibility to do the fall break and to streamline some of your other days. We did keep in place what we're enjoying right now, which is a matched spring break across St. Charles County. It's very beneficial not only for our parents, but also staff members whose children are in other districts. That's been very popular, so that is also in that. And most importantly, we maintained our total student contact time. So instructional time is not changed in terms of actual time with students. So with that, I would ask your approval. Option A was selected and voted upon. I'd ask your approval for that as the 23-24 calendar, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Mark? If not, I need a motion to approve the 23-24 school calendar as presented.
Powers.
Powers, second. Callahan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next item.
Jeff Orr has the Dell Master Lease Purchase Agreement that he needs to bring to your attention for purchasing all of our Chromebooks for this next year.
So January, the board approved the award of our Chromebook purchase to Dell. They came back and said, hey, by the way, we have a 4-year 0% lease, and we said that would be awesome. So it's $1 million that they're gonna give us 0% on for 4 years. So I will be bringing back another lease, which is for all the other equipment that didn't get awarded to Dell. So we usually do a lease purchase once a year. This is kind of a formality just to get the updated documentation in front of you and approved so we can get that order placed and just get all the documentation in place. So with that, I ask for your approval.
So what you're saying is this is a very easy vote?
I would hope so. At 0%, I hope it is.
Any questions regarding the Dell Master Lease Purchase Agreement? If not, I need a motion to approve as presented. Powers, second. Moore, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Final item, rescheduling the board meeting.
Yeah, last item is to reschedule our regular April 18th, 2022 meeting to April 14th, which is the previous Thursday. And that is because we are considered an urban district in the state of Missouri. We have over 60,000 residents of the part of the cities that we are located in. And therefore, we have to reorganize the board within 10 days following the April 5th election. And we would miss it if we waited until April 18th. So we can move that to the 14th. We'll make our 10 days requirement, and we'll be able to get that one out of the way for you.
I'll make a motion to reschedule the April 18th board meeting to April 14th. I need a second. Mr. Callahan, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Comments from the board. Mr. Moore.
Well, we've had a lot go on tonight to comment on. So some of the high points for me, I'm really thankful that this board and administration has placed the Leader in Me program in the other schools. I think that is one small step that goes toward helping solve maybe some of the issues. The PPI, the focus back on that now that we're back out of COVID and we can have that interaction, you know, will hopefully be maybe another small step in place of that and in mutual respect within within our communities and everything. I'm glad that we were able to get to a win-win negotiation. I do agree that, and I didn't get to comment on this when we were talking about it, that I do think there are some of the other benefits that we do need to potentially list out as an apples to apples comparison between the districts, because oftentimes we may only look at the base salary, and there may be other benefits like no-cost health insurance and some of the clinic stuff that we do and other paid days that we do that probably may start balancing that out a little bit. I don't know, I haven't really put the numbers to it, I'm not acting like I know all that, but it would be good information, and if I think it would be good information, then I think it would be good information for the teachers and the community to have it as well. Because I always miss this, that you guys won't be here for the comment section next board meeting, Mr. Swearingen and Mr. Emmons. Mr. Emmons, I want to thank you for your service on this board ahead of time, because I've had to do this several times. The board members exiting and they're no longer here after the new board comes in, so it feels a little awkward. So I'd rather do it while you're here. I do not think you fail at your job. I think you've done an outstanding job on this board, and it's been an honor to serve with you. And I hope you can walk away feeling that you've made a positive impact into the district and into, frankly, probably the ways that the board members help conduct business throughout this board. You've done an excellent job, and I appreciate that. Mr. Swearingen, you've had a lot of time here, and on this board, you've been through growth cycles that only few of us could probably even fathom with Dr. DeBray and with other administrators, building the school district that you see right now today over the last 20 years. And just thank you for your service. It is noted in my mind and hopefully noted within the community.
That's good. Mr. Evans?
Thank you, boards. It's a little bittersweet, obviously, to be at your last full board meeting. Like I said, I joined this board because I wanted to go after what I saw was children in our schools being mistreated and being hurt. I wanted an opportunity to try to help our staff get higher salaries, get better aligned with not just neighboring districts, but an industry that's frankly kind of leaving them behind, educators behind. Those things didn't happen in the way that I hoped they would, but I am confident that this board and the new board will continue that forward. It's interesting for anybody who's running for the board, who are in our audience now, the school boards it's not what it was. It is now what it wasn't before, where we have somehow become the focal point of just simply an angry nation that doesn't trust anybody, each other. And we have to get away from that. We have to get back from that, and I hope that everybody has an opportunity to go out and find the people who don't agree with them and give them the voice to debate you, to try to spend some time together and get through that. Listen, I joined this district as a freshman in high school at a period of my life that had a great deal of turmoil. Zumwalt South was a home to me. I met my wife in our cafeteria. I was a student, I graduated, I became the spouse of a Zumwalt teacher, became the father of Zumwalt children. I was very blessed to be a board member of this district. So, listen guys, admins, Dr. Bray, board, parents, I just want to thank everybody from the deepest part of my heart for everything that this district has done for me and my family. Mr. George?
How do you follow that? Thanks for all the gifts that we got last meeting for Board Appreciation Week. They were very nice and very much appreciated. I would be remiss if I didn't say we need to send our thoughts and prayers out to the people of Ukraine that are going through just atrocities that are being committed by a bully. And with that segueing, we've got much work to do here with addressing bullying and getting further along on the mental health issues that we can do better on. And so hopefully we get a committee going for that, and we can get some headway on that. Good luck to the candidates next month. What do we got, 2 in here? I would have hoped more would be here if they're wanting to run for the spot. Good luck. And just the last thing is be kind to each other all the time, every chance you get.
Mr. Callahan?
I have to follow both of these guys. I have to, again, point out to the good work that Thomas has done. We've had some interesting critiques and conversations on the phone. I think you have shown a strong light on areas that we need to address in the future, among the salary issue, the bullying issue, the morale issue, things that we may not have a real good feel for at the moment, but we know that we have some work to do to get to a standard of performance that we really want to see within our organization. And I thank you for being here and doing that. But bullying is a problem. I have to talk about my own family's experience. I was not aware until a couple of days ago about my grandson and granddaughter were experiencing bullying in the 2nd and 3rd grade. They're not in this school district. My granddaughter is now a student at the University of Arkansas, finishing up her sophomore year. And my grandson is a junior at his high school. My daughter and son-in-law, for some reason, and I think I know why, because I would probably explode about the kinds of things they ran into in the 2nd and 3rd and 4th grade. It's just, I have no understanding of what the root cause is, but it has to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Myers?
It's been really nice to see the kids back and being able to do things such as DARE and hold stuff, and parents be involved in plays and all of that. It's been really great to see those smiles. Part of this. Tom, when you started, I did not like you at all. And you know that. You know that. But this is a life lesson, and one that I've told my children, and one that I will always hold dear to, because I didn't know you, and we didn't talk. And the second that we did, you've become one of my dearest friends. And you have not failed this district. You've empowered it. And I feel very blessed to have worked next to you and know you and your family, and you will always be a part of this district, as will your family. I'm going to miss you a lot. Mike, thank you for all that you've done with this district too. It's been a part of you your whole life, and it's been a pleasure working with both of you. And my honest hope and prayer is that whoever comes in, I may not like you, But I learned my lesson, and I will be open and listen, and my hope is that we can work through things and do what needs to be done for this district, because there's a lot, and we're gonna keep going.
So I want to first congratulate West Middle School's Rebecca Van Sant. She is a math finalist for this year's PAE MST Award. And from what I understand, it is the highest honor bestowed by the United States government for the K through 12 STEM teachers. It may take her a year or so before we find out if she's an award winner, but it's pretty fantastic that that comes out of Fort Zumwalt. So I do.
She's awesome.
Wanted to congratulate her. Okay, so this didn't, this is tonight's my last full
Yeah,
board meeting.
when the meeting started, it really didn't sink in until later.
So, but I did ask Tammy Breen to do me a favor, and if you would just bear with me for a minute. So I first, just so you know, any of the candidates that are trying to get elected, if you, at first you don't succeed, try trying again, right? So I ran in 1998, but I wasn't elected until 1999. So I've been around for 23 years, 21 of those actually on the board, 3 years as vice president, 14 as president. There are currently 36 facilities, and I was on the board for the opening of the following 14 facilities, and I'm gonna read them real quick. West High, Pheasant Point Elementary, Hope High, West Middle, Westoff Elementary, MG Elementary, Osmond Elementary, the Alternative School Annex, East High School, the Old Professional Development Center, Mike Clemens Center, Flint Hill Elementary, the Early Childhood Center, and the new Professional Development and Technology Center. I've also been on the board, and we've passed over $250 million in bond issues. I've gone through 2 years of COVID and only one superintendent. I think that's pretty fantastic that we did all that together. But to the kind words from my fellow board members, I've had many boards that I've served with, and I guarantee you, I was in the service, and I know those that have been off to war and back, and the brotherhood, the sisterhood of those that go through battle is something that you can't break. And I really believe that this board's gone through battle the last 23 months. And to you, I salute you, and I appreciate you, and I thank you, and to the administration. It's not gonna be the same come May, but I might come up and speak as a concerned citizen. So with all that said, I need a motion, and thank you to Dr. Wood for your leadership. Thanks, Mike. I need a motion to go into closed session, and we're gonna do that for Missouri Statute 610-021 for the approval of our closed session minutes from last month, and the hiring, firing, promotion of personnel. Powers, second. George, roll call, please.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowers? Yes. Mr. Swearingen?
Yes.
So,
Okay, so 5 minutes? Because we've got a long closed session going. See all those stacks of papers underneath the room? All right, we're back in open session. Any other business before the board this evening? None on the agenda. What I need then is a motion for adjournment.
Move for adjournment.
Callahan, second. George, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.